Let's redo that. We are live, guys, and sometimes things happen. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 17, not episode 16 of the Elouise Show. We have a special guest on. Her name is Mobosinuola. Mobosinuola is the CEO and founder of Touch of a Queen, as well as Manso, which we will be hearing about both companies. She is, like I said, a media guru. She is just an all around amazing person with so much to speak on. Specifically, her passion is speaking about her Nigerian roots and making sure that that is in everything that she does. Without further ado, welcome, Mobosinuola.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm smiling because that's just a better thing to do with all the things that are going on in the world right now.
Yes.
So smiling through everything.
Absolutely. Definitely a better thing to do. Before we actually get into Touch of a Queen, I think it's only right that we start with Touch of a Queen. Before we even get into that, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the news right now?
Sure. Do you just want me to be super broad, or do you have a specific question?
Well, I kind of want to talk about what's happening in Nigeria.
Okay.
So apparently, something happened. I don't really know too much about it. I only saw high level stuff. I've been running around all day, for the past couple of days, actually. But I saw something about, you know, basically there were some protesters that were harmed. And literally, like, I just don't know the full extent of it. So do you want to speak on what you do know?
Sure. So for the last for a few weeks, Nigerian protesters have started a movement. It's called End SARS. So SARS, a lot of people don't know what SARS is. SARS is an organization that the Nigerian government put together that's part of the police force. It's like a special unit that they put together in the 90s. So the original reason for SARS was to take care of certain things, i.e., armed robberies, people who were doing like extreme crime. There was a lot of crime that was going on. So this particular group, SARS, was created to take care of that and dedicate their time to that. However, their rights were a little bit shady. Like, they didn't always have to be in uniform. They kind of got to do whatever they want, whatever they could do to end this high crime rate. However, this organization, like many organizations that have one intention, transformed. And what they've been known for quite a long time is harassing people, especially youth. So harassment, and when I say harassment, it's synonymous with police brutality. So a lot of youth have been stopped for no reason at all, varying from the way their hair looks, whether or not they have a hairstyle like dreads, whether or not they're super, super well dressed, if they have iPhones, if they're in nice cars, and been accused of being thieves or, prostitutes, all different types of things. And so during these stops, a lot of crazy things happen. People are shot, sometimes people are raped, and a lot of, brutality is happening in all different forms, and no one is being held responsible. Even sometimes when people die, families don't even get to track to where the body really is. And no one is holding them responsible. They kill people and they harass people and brutalize people, and no one takes responsibility. So the Nigerian youth have had enough, as they make sense. And these protests began a few weeks ago for them to end SARS. Now, the Nigerian government agreed a few days later, after they became trended, to end SARS. However, the Nigerian youth were not satisfied, as they should not have been, because I believe this is about the fourth time that they have ended SARS. Oh, wow. So they're saying, all right, we're going to end SARS this time, but now we're going to reform it into a new group. And the officers in that SARS will now be in a new unit.
So and same officers that were basically doing whatever the fuck that they wanted under the guise of SARS, and we're moving them under this new name, is what the
government. Okay. Yes. And so they're like, we'll reform it, and then just move them. And people are like, no, like that is not the solution, which doesn't make any sense. You can't send them into a new group or put them in other groups and then say, all right, we fixed the problem. So the NSARS movement, which has no one leader, which is super beautiful. It's just a lot of different factions of youth all over the country coming together and agreeing and liaising together, came up with 5 pillars of things that they wanted. So the really, really important thing about the NSARS movement is that SARS is just the beginning. There are a lot of issues in Nigeria: corruption, education, economy, jobs. And the Nigerian youth were like, all those other things we kind of let pass by because, it is what it is. But at least we want to live. So now with the NSARS movement, it has recharged that, we don't just want to live, we want to live well. So we have the NSARS movement to reform the police and how they engage with citizens, and to hold those who have brutalized people accountable and to compensate the families of those who have been brutalized, whether killed or harassed or injured in some sort of way. And to also begin conversations about, education and how a lot of people come out of school super educated, can't get jobs. And one of the stigmas is that, Nigerian youth are lazy, but they're not lazy. They just don't have opportunities. And so we see that when, a lot of people leave the country and we call it like the brain drain and go to all these other countries and excel. But, why can't we do the same thing in Nigeria?
I have a friend who lives in Nigeria. He makes films out there, and he was telling me that like police corruption is a major thing in Nigeria, and
Yeah.
and that like many places in the world, that money is king, so much so that like there's wealth disparity in Nigeria. So you're either really rich or you're really poor, and what you're
Yeah.
able to do has a lot to do with like where you stand on that like economic scale.
Absolutely.
And that like people can buy the police essentially. So I
Yeah.
guess because I know you have family out there still today.
Yeah, majority of my family is still out there, especially in Lagos. So yesterday is the massacre happened. They were protesting by Lekki Tollgate, which is a huge expressway. And the government turned off all the lights. They shut off cameras, and soldiers started shooting into the crowd. And so people were harmed, people were stuck, people died. And so yesterday, the massacre that happened. And so everyone is feeling like, Nigerian government waged war on their citizens. And so that's the big thing that we're dealing with right now. And where do we go from here?
That's thank you for like telling me what's going, because I've been running around. I didn't know what was happening. And I kept seeing NSARS, I kept seeing Pray for Nigeria, and I didn't know what anyone was talking about. And it's great that you were on the show because I figured we could just have this conversation live. But that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible. First question, is your family okay?
Yes, my family is okay. So far, I haven't heard any bad news, which I'm thankful for. But it still hurts that, I talked to my mom yesterday, and a lot of moms and a lot of parents are like, how could you go and kill our children? Like, how do you go into a crowd and just kill our children? And so that sentiment is really heavy on our hearts.
And where does the country go from there? Like, how do you even trust your government when they do something like that? And what can you do in terms of reform? Like, who decides like the repercussions of this entire situation? Like,
there's a lot of expectation about, what the government's gonna do. Naturally, we are holding leaders responsible, i.e. the president, who hasn't said anything thus far. Hello. Also, the Lagos state government. A lot of people are holding all those leaders accountable and saying that they personally massacred because, it happened on your watch. It's your army and you allowed it. And a lot of people are saying the directives came all the way from the top. So a lot of people are holding them accountable. What they will actually do is soon to be seen. We have a lot of statements, but no statement from the president, which is asinine. And I think that at the end of the day, what was done yesterday was done to stoke fear. Like, it's really clear. This is not the first time it's happened in any country. It was done to stoke fear. And I think what they don't realize is that, yes, you took away lives unjustly, and you killed and murdered people, but people are more invigorated now. People are not afraid. In fact, you're stripping away all these fears that people have had for many, many years and charging them up, because no one wants to live like this. So right now, another, like I said before, a beautiful thing about the SARS movement is that people are, thinking, how can we mobilize? How can we do better? How can we use the funds because they've raised so much money and they're still raising money. How can we do something for ourselves and basically take our country back? Or create a country that we can be proud to live and that we can thrive in. So we're going to see in the next couple of days what the government is going to do. But right now, it's really about what the people are doing and how they're moving and they're mobilizing.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see what type of action the people decide is necessary to account for the wrong that's been done. Like I can't even think of anything that would make up for what happened. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I think one of the things that I've been seeing and reading about that's a request from the Nigerian citizens and especially the youth is that what the international community can do besides spread the word is to make sure that all of these leaders cannot leave Nigeria. So one of the things with corruption is that money walks, and it walks into their pockets and their bank accounts. And they have a lot of money in all different currencies and a lot of different passports. One of the people who are really active in the movement, she said, you know what, we help your dreams come true. You're in your position. You're making about 21 million a year. You send your kids to the best schools in the world. Whenever you're sick, you get to go wherever you want in the world to see doctors. She's like, but now we have to take our country back. So I think that one of the things the international community can really do is make sure that these leaders don't have the opportunity to leave the country and escape being held accountable.
Okay. Okay, so not being able to leave, but then what could accountability look like in this situation? Is that prison time? Is that capital punishment? Does Nigeria have capital punishment?
Well, let's talk. Well, and this is the interesting thing, right, about colonization and independence. So Nigeria's independence, ironically, was also this month on October 1st. Its 60th independence, and a lot of people have the conversations about the cycles that have happened since then. And what is being held responsible? Is it capital punishment? Is it being, what is it when they send someone to be by themselves somewhere in a country?
Wait, no. Where they send somebody to be by themselves where?
Like they send you to a country, they send you somewhere that you can never leave again. Exile. So sometimes they put people in exile, so I don't know. What is the answer? I don't know.
Honestly, I just feel like, and this may sound extreme, I just feel like certain acts are like you just can't make up for them. Some wrongs cannot be undone. Like some things are like, a life is precious. Like to massacre, to kill so many lives. I wish I knew about this before we got on this, because this kind of messed me up a little bit.
Oh, no, they're bad news. Oh wow.
It's not your fault. You didn't kill
it. I
know. But that's messed up.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about legacy, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about okay, boom, run it back. So yes, let's talk about legacy. Let's talk about some good things, and let's start with you.
Okay.
As a descendant of Nigeria. And so you're first generation here, or did you move?
I am first generation here. Yes, I am.
Okay. So that's a fun question. Like, what was it like being first generation, in America, but coming from like a strong Nigerian household? Because there's Black/African American, and then there's being like African. So what was that like for you growing up?
confusing, super, super confusing. I say that a lot of us who are in that predicament, who are first generation, we go through an identity crisis. So, you know, I was always the girl with the long name, and my last name was at the beginning of the alphabet. So that was a crisis. You know, do I want people to say my name correctly, or do I just want them to speed by it really quickly? Everything from, you know, the way, you know, the stench of our food that will sometimes like be on our clothes to our traditional dress. And I remember, you know, a lot of the times I did a lot of pictures in my traditional outfits because my mom wanted me, or I was just like, oh, that's cool. But, you know, I got made fun of for that. So the fact that I'm even doing, you know, fashion and being really passionate about traditional clothes is really interesting because it was a thing. It was kind of one of those things, like wrapping my hair. I love that. But, you know, it was low key obnoxious for a lot of other kids, but not to me. So it's really great to see the evolution of that. But it was very confusing, but super enriching. I say one of the things that I'm really proud of, especially being a Nigerian growing up in America, is that our parents, our community, our culture demanded excellence. And I think that I see the benefit of that when I look at my other Nigerian peers, that excellence that, you know, got on our nerves because, you know, we got a 98 instead of 100 and it wasn't good enough, you know, worked out in our favor to some degree because of, you know, how hungry we are and how we take excellence so serious, and, you know, the places that we find ourselves.
Don't you think it's interesting how, like, when we were growing up, when we were like in elementary school and stuff like that, like African culture wasn't accepted, but because of everything that's happened in the world, you have a lot of, you know, Black people trying to like rediscover their roots, rediscover their culture, and so now you see like a lot of people wearing like really into head wraps and like, you know, traditional clothes, like, so I think it's interesting how what you were once teased for is now in style. Outside
Yeah.
of the brand itself, it's in style.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Do you think it's like corny, or are you like excited about the fact that, you know, people are finally embracing your culture?
I think it's awkwardly beautiful. It's awkward because it's like you so many African kids, and not a lot of them will admit this, but so many African kids, you know, tried to be like Jamaican growing up and like be like from other countries. And, you know, we were trying to hide our Africanness. And, you know, some people were really ashamed of their parents, and like, they just wanted to, we just spent so much time like dimming the light, like, don't look at me. And so it's really awkward to go from like, oh, minimize to like, we're popping now, like being popping. It's like, you know, the person who was always corny and always made fun of is now cool. But it's really beautiful because honestly, when I'm in New York and I hear African artists on the radio, it surprises me every time. Like, no matter how many times it happens, I'm like, are we on Hot 97? Like, what's happening? And, you know, it's so dope.
I had a conversation with one of my friends the other day, who happens to also be Nigerian. And he was like, yo, like, I've been listening to Afro beats for a minute. Now it's hot. Now everybody wants to listen to Afro beats.
Yeah. Or, you know, when people argue over our artists, it's like, okay. And they're like, no, this person's better than this person, or this person is new. And I'm like, this person is definitely not new. You're new to them, but it's okay. I'm glad you're enjoying.
It's hilarious too. I was reading on like one of these sites, someone was making the argument, which I think is hilarious, that Drake popularized Afro beats.
Stop it.
I'm sure he made reggaeton mainstream too. So
Stop it. How did he do that? He wasn't even in the video with Wizkid with the song that he did. How did he do that?
Song they're talking about. Fun fact.
Do better.
I don't even know.
They need to do better. I don't know what kind of argument that is. That's ridiculous.
Pop culture is hilarious.
Stop it. Stop it.
All right, but so when I was maybe, I want to say 12, 13 years old, that's when I learned that so I learned like the components of a Puerto Rican, right? So Puerto
Mhm.
Ricans are made up of some type of African, usually West African, and it is rumored that most of the African slaves that were brought to Puerto Rico were supposed to be from Nigeria. Um,
Mhm.
Taino, right? Which I'm not even gonna get into like the breakdown of that. And then Spaniard, right? With a
Yeah.
little bit of French in there. Fun fact, a lot of people don't know about that. A little bit of French in there. But ever since I learned that the slaves that were brought to Puerto Rico were mostly from Nigeria, I had been like fascinated with West African culture, specifically Nigerian culture. And the more I learned about it, the more, and there's so much to learn. I like the more you learn, the more you know nothing at all, or at least that's
Yeah.
and the one word that I would use to describe Nigerian culture is regal from my perspective. Fast forward to when I meet you, and you have this brand called Touch of a Queen, which I think is perfect for your entire platform. So I want you to like, just go into Touch of a Queen and like for everyone who's listening, just let them know what it is, why you started it, all that good stuff.
Okay, so Touch of a Queen. There's actually a couple of elements to Touch of a Queen a lot of people don't know. So a lot of people know Touch of a Queen as the fashion brand. But Touch of a Queen actually started off as a representation of me and everything that I was interested in. It's something that I started when I was in undergrad at Howard. And I was like, you know what? Everything that I do is the touch of a queen because whatever I touch, I'm the queen. And, I'm adding value or, putting my view out there. However, like everything when you plan it, sometimes it changes and it transforms and it takes a life on of its own. So Touch of a Queen fashion started off with actually head wraps. So the head wraps that I got made fun of for wearing, in high school and middle school, I actually started with because I really love head wraps. I love the way it looks. I love the regalness of it, especially our traditional head wraps. I'm like obsessed with whatever's in style. And I really wanted the opportunity to give other people that feeling, other women that feeling, but make it more convenient because our traditional headscarves are really tough to tie and therefore usually special activities. And so I started doing head wraps when it wasn't that popular yet. Maybe like there were like 2 or 3 other people doing it. It was like 2015. And so it started off as a head wrap line. And it took off from there. I've been also always very particular about doing traditional African prints or, what is perceived to be traditional African prints. And also always using Black women as my models. Because I'm always protesting and all the things that I do. So you always using Black women as my models because of the stigma I had heard from a marketing. It was either an undergrad or right before I started doing this. I heard from like a marketing find that, if you just have Black models, then your things can't sell. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I will not allow myself to be swayed by that. We are beautiful and we are diverse. I just come from an HBCU, so I'm seeing the diversity of what Blackness looks like across the world and accents, religions, all this other stuff. And I'm like, that is ridiculous. Black people can sell things.
Black women specifically are the pioneers of pop culture. What Black
Period.
did in the 90s is what everyone wants to do today. Whatever a
Period.
Black woman is doing today is what you will see people mocking tomorrow. It like
Period.
it is ridiculous that you sat in a marketing class and they told you that you cannot have Black women in like modeling because no one's gonna buy your stuff.
But
Like
to be fair,
it instead.
though, I mean, there was no case study to prove otherwise, right? So you do have, out of 10 models on a runway or in an ad, maybe you'll find one Black girl and she's super ambiguous, you
I think,
know?
I think that shows the importance of having a person of color in the room because
Mm-hmm.
the person who pulled those stats didn't think to like do a case study and like to show like whether or not that was true. They were just like, oh, this is what we have, so this is what it must be. It takes someone of color being in the room to be like, no, this is just what is. But
Right.
we just test the theory real quick.
And it's also super interesting, right? Because, even lately, I watched a fashion documentary actually on Netflix, which talked a lot about Misa Hilton and how she added to hip hop and how she really defined the hip hop look. And it also talked about Dapper Dan, and they were talking about like, at the time in the 90s where people were wearing all these big brands and Biggie was rapping about Versace and all these other things, but they didn't make things for Black people. Like they didn't make big and tall, they didn't do all these other things, and all these big brands never realized that there was space for, urban culture and, rap and all those other things. So it took them a long time to keep on saying like, no, like we does this, like, Dapper Dan in Harlem, cutting up all these Louis Vuitton and MCMs and making people personal outfits from gangsters to celebrities, like all those different things. And it took brands so long to pay attention before they didn't steal it for themselves. No shade, but it is what it is. And so in that respect, we are the genesis of so many things that are then taken and remixed and then we're pushed out of. So that's why it was really important for me for Touch of a Queen and virtually, honestly, everything that I do to make sure that I show the diversity of Black beauty. So I was really particular about that in the beginning.
One of the reasons why I think also that your name is like your brand name is proper is because when I think of like queen, right? It is how you present, right? And obviously between the prints and the skirts and the tops and the head wraps, like everything is very regal, right? But I believe that a queen is a leader, right? A queen teaches the right way to do things. And one thing that I think is awesome about your brand that I've noticed over the past 2-3 years is that you give head wrap classes. So now, do you do them virtually now that COVID is now that there's a pandemic? Actually?
I actually have not done one virtually yet. I was supposed to. So this is fun fact. This is our 5th year in business. So we had like a whole bunch of plans before COVID started. And honestly, but after in the very beginning of COVID, I would say I was like in a creative funk. And so after coming out of that, we still made some plans about what we wanted to do. But things happen, but we are transitioning to bring that up for the end of the year as well as the beginning of 2021 to do head wrap workshops and kind of make it more interactive. Because one of the things about my brand is that I always meet people. I'm always at pop-up shops and fashion shows. I'm always talking to people. And that was, the biggest avenue of my brand more than online. So how to, effectively engage with people is meet new people and, create the experience in people's homes is really important to us. So just transforming how to do that other than, of course, sitting and just teaching people to do head wraps. Like I want to bring it. So we have a couple of really creative ideas that I'm excited about. And that we'll be doing more towards the end of the year and beginning of next year.
Okay. I like that. And then also one thing that I noticed is like I remember when we first met, you were always like, yeah, Touch of a Queen is known for like the fashion line, but it really is a media platform. And one thing that I think is really cool is that like you teach people about, first off, you teach people about the names of your garments. They come from like the cloth comes from different regions in Africa. It's not all West African. And so that the names of the garments are true to like that you keep the true name of the cloth, right?
So yes and no. So one of the things protests, because I'm always protesting with my fashion brand is that I name all of my brands after African names. So that came from, of course, growing up, and they say, oh, African names are too hard to say. And I'm like, but you say Kardashian and Schwarzenegger, so you can say Mobosinuola, So I always was really intentional about that, of making it normal to hear African names, to honor African names, and to know the meanings behind them. Because a lot of times African culture is really beautiful in that way. There's nothing that we do that is not symbolic. So our naming is really, really particular in that way, especially in my culture. I always say, or I explain to people in Yoruba culture, because I'm from the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria. Our names are sentences. So like my name is Mobosinuola or Mobosinuola. It means I have come into my wealth. And it's also a prophecy. And, so sometimes when Nigerian people meet me and I tell them my name, they're like, oh, let me touch hands with you because of that prophecy over your life, So
firmly believe in that, because it's also like the law of attraction. But the way you introduce yourself, everyone's name has a meaning. So the way you introduce yourself is the energy that you're calling upon yourself. And it's so funny because when I was younger, I wrote a poem, and it started off as a response to, I think it's Romeo and Juliet, where the line is, "What's in a name?" Right?
Oh,
And
yes.
well, it's like that question plagued me because at the time I hated my name, right? And then I Googled or Binged or looked in a baby book. I don't know. Probably at that time I looked in a baby book. I looked up what my name meant. And I found out the meaning of my name. And then that's when I started to fall in love with my name. Um, because then it started to make sense, like life started to make sense. And I'm like, oh, your destiny is literally in your name. Like if you look at the definition of your name, your trials, tribulations, and triumphs make so much sense because every time you meet someone, you introduce yourself with that. You're calling that energy upon yourself.
Yeah. And the same thing when someone calls you, we don't talk enough about like what we accept people calling us. And, my younger self, when I allow people to butcher my name, I allow people to butcher the prophecy that was over my life. I allowed people to take it and let it mean something for themselves. And when they say, can I call you this? I allowed them to switch that up and it changed, and I gave away my power. Instead of demanding that you honor who I am and what I was named as, what my prophecy is, and recognize it despite whatever your experience is. So I think that was really, I believe that that's incredibly important. And so I poured that also into my brand as well.
So, and then the other thing that you do that I noticed with your brand is you showcase different artists.
Yes. Yeah, so that's one of our 2020 things. I love African music. I love what it's transformed to be. I love what it's transforming to be. I love all the sounds that's coming out of it. And people hear it on Hot 97 and Power 105, and that's cute. But sometimes some of those songs are so old. And I'm like, I need to put people on. I need to let people know like what's happening now. And so that's part of the things that I'm doing. I also share some old school music from some legendary music, because when you listen to that music, you'll hear it in some of hip hop, and you'll hear it in R&B, and you'll hear it in jazz, and you'll see the collaborations that have happened, across the waters. So I share some old and some new school music, just again to spread the culture and to expose people to things that they may have not listened to had they not heard it on my page.
Honestly, from the American perspective, and I know you know this, being like 1 foot in and 1 foot out of two cultures, or 2 feet in and two cultures, like Americans know nothing about the continent of Africa.
No.
A lot of them don't even realize that it's a continent.
No, which is always fun.
To explain that.
Yeah.
but okay, so you have had Touch of a Queen for 5 years.
Yes.
And so you just started Mansa this year. Is it Mansa or is it Mansa?
Mansa.
Mansa. Okay.
So yes, I started Mansa this year. Mansa is actually inspired. The name Mansa, because a lot of people have been asking me, what does it mean? The name Mansa is actually inspired by Mansa Musa, who was the Mansa of Mali, which is like king of Mali, a long time ago. However, he is known for being one of the wealthiest people, not Black people, wealthiest people, period, in modern history. And Mali is known for being, so Timbuktu is in Mali. They're known for being a place of great education. A lot of Europeans came to be educated there as well. They're known for gold. So gold and salt was the genesis or the majority of Mansa Musa's wealth. So it's inspired, the name is inspired by that because, I'm all about wealth, especially Black wealth, and acknowledging history as it is, not as it's constantly rewritten. However, Mansa is actually a beauty platform. So I am a makeup artist, a beauty enthusiast, and I'm all about the diversity of Black beauty in all different forms. So one of the places that I'm particularly charged up about is the beauty industry, and how Eurocentric standards of beauty, American standards of beauty, are constantly put forth, and it's not us. And how we can have 100 shades of olive and white, but we got like 5 shades of Black, and that's not realistic. So Mansa is a platform. It's an online retailer that specifically is for mid to high-end and luxury Black-owned brands. So I've always wanted to start my own makeup brand. So it's ironic that I started with this instead. I really just wanted a place that was really intentional about the fact that, one, we exist in high-end and luxury spaces, because that narrative is constantly that Black people do not, and that's a false narrative. But also that we are doing awesome things in the beauty industry, and we're constantly asking for space like we deserve. But I wanted to stop asking for space, and I wanted to create space. So one of the things that we say at Mansa is that we're not asking for a seat at the table, we are the table. And so we are hosting Black-owned brands. We're not a marketplace, we're an actual store, and hope to grow to be a major retailer. But we are specifically hosting Black-owned brands that exist in the mid to high end and luxury space.
That's amazing, especially to have a platform like that today, where there are so many people looking for exactly that. Like, I just want to know where I can buy Black-owned makeup, period. Like, where do I go? Like,
yeah.
Rihanna can't be the only one making it. Like, who else is out there?
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many of my girlfriends and I, like, we sit down and like we share links with each other. Like, anytime I come across a link, like Black-owned supermarkets, which is hard to find. I haven't really found Black-owned supermarkets. What I found is like Black-owned farmers markets, and still rare in New York City. But like, I came across this, I sent it to my girlfriends, immediately. I get from them, they send me like lists of like Black-owned clothing brands, and anything we come across, like a brand that I found recently. It's a very, very small business, but their products are really good, is Body Butter Blends. They're like a skincare line, and their lotion, well, it's not a lotion, it's really a cream, but their cream and their like lip balms, perfect.
And that's how I want us to feel about buying from us, right? Because Black businesses have such a stigma. I'm not even really sure where it came from. That we don't produce quality, or our things are inferior, or our customer service is inferior, and that's not always true. And a lot of what these other brands that exist or that have major distribution that we know about have is that they just have a bigger platform. And they exist in a lot of these, frankly, white spaces. And often people don't even know they're Black owned, even us, right?
Platform. A lot of the times more collateral, or like more funding, more investors, whatever. Like, so like a lot of the times, people, I know a lot of people who have started brands, and when they start their stuff, like they're putting their money up, they gamble themselves, right? And then the money that they get back from sales, they take that money and they reinvest it in the brand, and that's how they can go on like perfecting their craft. Because unfortunately, you're starting up and you don't have a lot of investors, or like a lot of money down, like you have to pull back on the vision. And if we want to see the full scale vision of a lot of these brands, we have to invest in these brands, not by saying, hey, here's $100, but saying, I'm going to buy this from you so that you can take the money and you can, reinvest it in yourself.
And spread the word. Gone are the days where it's like, I don't want to tell you where I got this lipstick from because I want you to buy it. And I'm like, no, I want you to know where I got this lipstick from so you can go buy it too, sis. And
the only times I get shy about like telling people where I got something from is if it's not Black owned, because
And you know what? Let me tell you about that, because that's really the genesis of this for me. A few years ago, I was really supporting this brand that was not Black owned. I was just like, girl, I love makeup, and it was beautiful. And I was like, if they had a launch at 9 o'clock, I was there at 8:59, like refresh. So I was spending a lot of money. It was like my first job out of college. And, it's nothing for me to like spend $100 on makeup because, that's my thing. But I might not spend it on anything else. So I was giving this brand a lot of money. And girl, it came out that their owner had a really questionable history with Black women and said some things that he'd never apologized for. And I was like, I was sick. I was so sick because I'm the type of girl that even on the streets, people stop me and they're like, oh, what lipstick are you wearing? I'm like, I'll tell you, I'll give you coupon codes. And I'm like, yeah, go here and buy this. And so I have been telling everybody like, yeah, this formula is bomb. And I went to go I looked it up, I saw it myself, and I was like, oh no. And I think I had just gotten my shipment and I just could not use it because I didn't want someone to ask me where I got it from and point them in the direction of that brand. I could not do it.
It's, I think it's unfortunate that it's 2020 and we're still having this conversation. Like extremely I don't understand. I don't understand how people can be so angry at someone because they're of a darker hue. Like I'm just like,
or like disgustingly shady, not even like petty fun shady, like disgustingly shady, like putting someone down. And then at the end of the day, like, because to be fair, these videos were from a long time ago, but you profit off of Black aesthetic. You call yourself using Black models today. It's like, come on, like we cut it out, do better. Like, you profit too much from the Black dollar, the Black aesthetic, and you have things that you need to answer for. And I think that, we keep on giving out passes, and I'm just not interested anymore. I'm not interested in giving out passes. I'm not interested in giving my money to anybody who has a questionable history when it comes to Black people and is not interested in addressing it. I'm just not interested. And that's why it's really important for me for Black-owned spaces that can unapologetically exist in our fabulousness, in our luxury, in our rich auntiness. Like, we just need to do that.
You say rich auntiness?
Yes, rich auntiness, because at the end of the day, I saw a meme that was like, there was like a Black woman that, has it together and is like making money, it spends money like a drug dealer. And I see no lies. Like, I see no lies. So
I mean, when it took me back to a year when I was making buku cash and the way that I was spending, honey.
it's really.
No more. I'm gonna start spending like I don't even got a home.
Exactly. So yeah.
I need to save. It's a pandemic out here in these streets. What are your hopes for both Touch of a Queen and Mansa?
So my hopes for Touch of a Queen and Mansa, for Touch of a Queen, first of all, is to be unapologetically African. So one of the things that I've been doing to do that is to dig a little bit more history into African fashion as it was before Europeans came along, and to find out, what aesthetic that was and how we can honor that. I saw some brands that were doing that, and I really, really do enjoy their work. So Touch of a Queen, actually, because like you said before, it is a bigger platform. Touch of a Queen is going to turn into an umbrella, and the fashion is going to come back. It's going to, after, a season, it's going to take a break and then come back brand new under another name. And so Touch of Queen is going to be a multidimensional platform. It's going to be media. It's going to be business. It's going to be entertainment, but being unapologetically African, Black, and diverse in all of that sense. So the Touch of a Queen fashion that everyone loves is going to transform a little bit and then be even better than before. But right now, we're just pushing, what we have now, the beauty in what we've created, and really honoring what 5 years has brought.
I really do see that for your brands. You read to me, your Instagram page reads to me like a digital magazine right now. I get fashion, I get current events, it's opinionated. It has like, it's clearly, it comes from the voice of a Black woman. Like it has you have a clear brand, and you give me diverse content. And it's always, you're like, everything that comes from your page is always fun for me.
Thank you.
And it's been consistently that since I've been following you
Yeah.
and your brand. And the like everything always gets better. Like the content that you put out now versus the content that you put out 2 years ago it's much better. But the crazy thing is that the content that you put out 2 years ago was already good.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I'm really excited for where the brand's headed. I can definitely see you as like an entire platform. I can see you as a channel, to be honest. Like, period.
I mean, that's the goal. You know, I was having a conversation with someone recently. Like, if you ask me what I'm interested in any space that they say Black people do not dominate. Anything like that. And I think that, showing that in as many ways as I can, from African Americans to the Caribbean to African countries to even Blacks in Asia and Europe, like, we are doing so much that we don't get to see. And one of the things that I recognize in college is that the reason why kids grow up they do the way they do, having so much self-hate, is because they don't see the beauty and the excellence and the diversity of what their options are and what has been done and what is being done. So it's really the goal of the brand, even beyond Touch of a Queen, myself, my brand, and anything that I do and participate in, to do that. And so Mansa is currently pre-launched. So this is my first time talking about it on the platform. Really excited about that. So thank you. So Mansa is recently pre-launched. I'm in the mood right now because you know how creative people are, girl. We're just like, oh, I created something. Should I put it out? Should I wait? Perfection. I am not doing that with myself this time. It's been a long coming idea. It's been something I've meditated on for a long time. And I know the quality of what I produce out. So we are going to launch on Black Friday, no matter what we have. If we just have one brand, 2 brands, 3 brands, we're going to be ready on Black Friday. But right now what we're doing is we started an Instagram page, Facebook page, and we have our website. We're collecting emails and stuff because we're actually going to be crowdfunding, because our goal is to bring on as many excellent Black-owned brands as possible. And so we're going to be having a crowdfunding campaign that's going to begin at the end of the month. So if people follow us on social media and on our website, they'll be able to stay hip to what we're doing, what brands we're bringing on. One of the great things about Mansa that's a lot different from a lot of other retailers is that we're bringing Black-owned brands from all over the world. So we're not just bringing Black-owned brands from America. While we do have a lot of American Black-owned brands we want to bring on, we're interested in bringing brands in from the Caribbean, from Africa, from Europe, etc., everywhere. As long as it's Black-owned and Black people are doing excellent things all over the world, we want to put that in one place. And in the same breath, while we're just starting off to ship in America first, we're going to grow to ship worldwide. So I say that to say that support us in our crowdfunding because, like you said, when we are starting off businesses, we don't get as much funding as other people, at least we're not selling our souls and our business and not owning it eventually. And crowdfunding is a way that I feel that, non-Black people have been raising money for a long time. So I think it's a great platform for us to do. But from the beginning of our platform, crowdfunding at the end of the month, we're still going to launch and soft launch on Black Friday. And then hopefully grow on from there. The goal is to have 100 Black-owned brands, at least by, the first half of next year. And then from there, push the narrative on Black beauty. So that's one of the things that Mansa is going to do as well.
So now when you're talking about Black beauty, we're not just talking makeup, we're also talking like skincare as well, right?
Everything. And the reason I say that is because I also watched a documentary on Netflix. I'm plugging them. It's called Skin. It's by a Nigerian actress, Beverly Naya. And there's a man in there who said something that's been sticking with my soul. And he said, when Black people create things, or something to this effect, when Black people create things, it's often a reaction to what white people have created or what European standard is. And we're kind of like, let us have our version. And so I'm trying to be really intentional with Mansa to not do that and ask the question, what is organically Black beauty? So we are hair, we are makeup, we are nails, we are self-care. You know, Black people like to take care of themselves. We are lotion, we are candles, we are bath bombs, we are bath. Like, we are so multidimensional in that way. We are bonnets. We are all of those things. We are, you know, the clip that's in your hair. We are all of that. So we're being really intentional about hosting all of those things and making sure that's in one place and that it's high quality. And because there's some dope people out there who are doing really great things, and people need to see it in one place.
I would just like to take a moment to personally thank you for including hair. Because I like to put in like twists every now and then and braids every now and then. And these packs of hair that I get, they are not Black owned brands. They are not. These beauty supplies,
they're not
Black owned. So thank you, because I would love to be able to say, girl, this hair, pounds, flips hair.
Yeah. So for actually carrying like extensions and things like that, we are going to work ourselves up to doing it a really excellent way, because, you know, even with Black owned brands, we don't completely produce that all the time. So we're going to be intentional about that. But Black owned hair care and accessories, we're definitely going to start off with. So you'll be able to see that eventually, and then grow into seeing, you know, again, what is authentically having, you know, Black hair and the things that we like to use. What does that look like?
I'm excited for this brand, and you will see a lot of Lynette E. Davis shipments on there.
We're looking forward to it. We're so excited. We're so excited.
So let me see. We're running out of time. What is it that I'm dying to ask you that I wasn't able to ask you? Look, I feel like you touched on all of this except for. Oh, so we talked about your upbringing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you believe that your upbringing has contributed to like your entrepreneurial mindset?
You know, it's one of those things, like, I have to make it. And the reason I say that is because of my lineage. Okay, so I can't go that far back, but, you know, I had grandparents that were not formally educated, but, you know, were bosses in their own right. And, you know, from everything from agriculture to trade, they did. My parents, you know, they both grew up in two separate villages, and they're immigrants in America, and they made it to the middle class, and they educated themselves, and they educated their siblings, and they sent money back home, and still somehow managed to raise children and have some sort of, you know, funds to do things for us, and again, be in the middle class. So ever since I understood the weight of that accomplishment, I've always been like, if my parents can come from a village in Nigeria and be immigrants and come here and, you know, face, you know, discrimination from their accents to, you know, you're here to take our jobs, to having to fund, because both of my parents are also the oldest, so having to fund many, many other siblings, then I have to make it to the 1%. I was like, I have to make it to the 1%, because if my parents can do all that, like, I'm starting there. So I need to go up. So always thinking about, like, what does that look like for me? And I guess from a young age, because of, you know, another thing that they say about Nigerians is that Nigerians are arrogant and all those other things. And I don't disagree, but I think it's a cultural thing. Like, I think Yvonne Orji was on Power 105 or The Breakfast Club, and she really, really articulated it. Like, we grew up in a culture that tells us that no one's better than us, right? And that when we're compared to, you know, other tribes or other cultures, other countries, we're always told no one is better than us. And that was the thing, like, and that excellence that I was talking about when we were growing up, that, you know, if you get a score, you know, your parents are like, the person who got the higher score than you is not better than you, like, do better. So in that respect, always thinking like, well, how can I actually do better? And that is the quest of, I think, the millennial Nigerian, why you see us in so many spaces, doing things all over. And I'm so proud of us, because even though, our parents influenced us a lot of us were expecting to be doctors and lawyers and engineers. But we broke out of that mold and took a lot of those lessons and that culture and just moved that excellence and shifted it to other spaces that we were interested in. So I would say that that's a great way that the culture has definitely influenced us, but we've definitely taken it and making it our own. And I'm definitely in the space of ownership. Your parents work for 20, 30 years, they retire, and I'm like, that's nice and that's good, but they don't always own things. And that's just not immigrants, that's also Black people in this country. And I'm like, we can't constantly be generations where we don't own anything. And so I'm also really passionate about ownership, became more passionate about ownership in undergrad, which is why I'm in that space now of owning stuff for myself. But I'm also the type of person, like, I don't just want to be on, I also want to put other people on, which is another reason why Mansa, Touch of a Queen, and being really particular about the vendors we use and the brands we bring on is a big thing, because I want us all to win. It's not enough for me to be there by myself. Like, we got to carry ourselves and others with us.
So that brings me to the next and last question that I will ask you.
Okay.
What is your favorite part about being a Nigerian American woman paving her way in New York 2020?
My favorite part, honestly, is that before we, like, in the transition, you talked about legacy. My favorite part is the legacy, knowing that I'm participating in the conversation change, I'm participating in the shift, and I'm in the space and the generation of people who are shifting, and not just existing in a space. So with my personal brand, Mobosinuola, I'm really particular about sharing and encouraging people to break from the mold and be yourself, be authentically who you are. Because I think that, it's been a challenge to get there, especially in this day and age, especially with social media. So from social media to culture, you're battling all these things and you're like, dag, who am I? So to walk and so where I've gotten in my life right now, where I'm like, what, this is me and I'm happy about me, and I'm bomb, period. Don't sleep on yourself. I definitely am really, really proud of that, and I want to share that with people, and I want to make that energy contagious. So I would say that that's the most proud thing that I am of right now, about being a Nigerian woman of this generation, and happy slaying.
Yeah, you sure do slay. Because that picture you posted with that beautiful head wrap and the way that you just wrapped it in the way that it was shaped, it was amazing. Literally the last picture, because you also have some dope videos. Amazing.
Thank you. We're trying out here.
I don't really think you gotta try hard, girl. I think it's you are. I feel like you woke up one day and you were like, yeah, Touch of a Queen. That's gonna be the brand. I'm gonna love it.
Something like that.
Well, Mobosinuola, I really, really want to thank you for joining me on the Elouise show. I am excited about where you're going with Touch of a Queen, and I am excited for the Black Friday launch of Mansa, and I will be getting my sister's Christmas gift from there.
Yes, thank you. We're excited. So glad that you had us. Thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, some more times of doing this.
Have a wonderful evening. Happy Wednesday.
You too.